So if you can transport yourself back in time to before coaching, before ever coaching, so a year ago, tell me, just give me an idea of what life was like.
Yeah, and so I've always been interested in self-improvement and growth, but I found I was continually hitting a wall with what to do with that knowledge in order to make lasting change. So while I was better understanding, maybe where my patterns and tendencies might come from, I really was not having any luck with challenging or changing them. So one of the biggest ones for me before we started working together was around self-trust and self-confidence. And it wasn't that I didn't know what I wanted or who I was at my core, but really that I was afraid to trust that, and also afraid of what might happen if I did trust that, because, that started to feel really big with possibility. And even sometimes that can feel scary. So I was kind of, struggling from both sides there. And it was really showing up everywhere in my life, from my career to my relationships. And what I think most importantly, in my own head and the way I was talking to myself. So it was fostering this lifestyle built on anxiety and a scarcity mindset, and frankly, just a lack of contentment. And then that was leading to frustration and guilt. And so even when things were going really well from the outside, inside everything felt really hollow.
Mm. Yeah. And you mentioned that you like all for seems like for a large portion of your life were involved or intrigued about self-development and personal development. So explain a little bit more of like what wasn't being addressed by the self-development work that you were doing, that still led to that feeling of feeling hollow.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that I did have that work before we started working together, because I think it gave me a really strong foundation, and I could come in saying, okay, I know this was my tendency, and we didn't have to spend time figuring out that part. But and whether it was primarily therapy or just some other stuff on my own, because I like to learn about this stuff, it really was more what has happened in the past, and kind of unpacking how I got here, and unpacking kind of past, hurts or past experiences. But while it helped explain again why I was kind of like that, there wasn't anything tangible I could take away each week that was like, okay, here's what I'm going to work on to, I guess, start challenging it and changing it. It was mostly I was caught in the catch it part of the cycle. So I could keep catching it, but then that's where the frustration was, because that's where I kept hitting my head against the wall saying, I know this is my tendency, but how do I stop living a life where this is limiting me, because I know that it can be different.
Mm. Yeah, sounds so frustrating of like having the understanding and not having the practical implication of like, what do I then do with that? Or having like you and I have worked through the phrase of, I remember this part. So there were moments, it sounds like, where you're like, I remember this part, but nowhere to go forward from
Yes,
there.
exactly.
So then when you were looking into how to shift from that place that was feeling like anxiety and hollow and just not where you wanted to be, what made coaching stand out as opposed to therapy, or as opposed to other avenues that could have added on top of that foundation of personal development that you already had?
So I actually didn't know much about coaching before you and I started talking, but what I was really grateful for is that I was able to come to you and say, hey, here's what my experience has been. And then you helped me understand, kind of the alignment or the nice bridge between how therapy is different and how coaching is different. And so because I had done a lot of therapy, and again, that's more the understanding phase, but coaching can be more of the action phase. All of a sudden, everything within me was like, yes, this is it. This is what I've been missing, a partner to walk with me and challenge me and kind of motivate me to make some decisions and make some changes and hold me accountable for that. But also, someone who approaches it with an understanding of where I've come from on the rest of my journey, that I'm not starting just from scratch with a coach.
Yes. Yes. I think that you gave a really brief, beautiful differentiation between therapy and coaching. You said therapy is that understanding piece and coaching is that action piece. I haven't heard it explained that way, but it so resonates with what the difference is. And you also, what you said, that just whether this necessarily needs to be said for everyone else listening or not, but just I really resonate with, of course I'm walking with you. And we talked about how sessions and even this is really about you and your journey. And that's my role as your coach, is to support you and shine the light on you the whole time. And I love that little bit just about, of course, I've also been through this alignment process and through similar challenges. And I really think that's actually a strength for me as a coach, to be able to enter these conversations and these explorations from a place of true deep empathy, because I get it. I get how scary it can be and how frustrating and how amazing it can be, the whole ride. I'm human too, and we've all been there.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I think that's what, drew me to you as a coach specifically, because honestly, it was just this, I feel like, feel good vibe from the moment I met you. And I felt like even within our introductory session, I felt so seen and understood in such a short amount of time. But then I could also tell you weren't going to be the type of person who just like handed out gold stars. And on top of that, you recognized right away that I am like a person who craves gold stars and the quote right and right answer. So I felt really good in that first month, especially, I was pushing past surface level and past excuses and past stuck ways of thinking. And you were offering, very tangible ways to start practicing change, which again I was like, no, I mean, don't we need more time? I'm like, I don't think I'm quite ready to, start practicing. So that was great. Your approach there was great.
That's so good to hear. And I agree that from the very first time we met, the very first time, it was like, this is meant to be. This is something that we really need to connect here. So it's all sounding beautiful, and you were introduced to this idea and you got clarity on what coaching was, and you said, yes, this is it. Along that, especially, well, actually for both contracts that we've signed so far, has there ever been an obstacle or hesitation that made you doubt or just take a pause before entering into a coaching relationship?
There really hasn't been. In some ways, for me, the obstacle is fear, and it's very irrational, and oftentimes I can't even pinpoint what the fear is outside of change is sometimes fear, and like I said, or sometimes it's even though it could be better, it's still different, and that's scary. Or if you're somebody who has been living with this feeling for a really long time, there's some fear around, well, what will I do, or what will I think about if this isn't my challenge anymore? And almost afraid of that downtime, even though that's what you want more than anything in the world. And so every time that has kind of caught me a little bit, but I've been able to push through it, and I'm so glad because of the work that has come out of
I think that's an answer so many people need to hear, because that's
it.
so
Okay.
many of us. I mean, and myself included, I just rehired my own coach yesterday. And I also experienced the same thing of like, oh God, like, like this is going to be change and this is
What now?
uncomfortable. Yeah, exactly. And you and I, and of course I know your journey. And so speaking to like, if I actually resolved this, or if I actually worked through this part of who I've identified as for so long, what would there be? And even if it's the most beautiful version, the most beautiful life, the most beautiful success story, you're right, it still is different. And it's still not who we always have been and who we're familiar and comfortable as being, simply because that's who we've been before. So I think that's such a valuable insight to bring up and to normalize. Like we all face that fear to some level. And I mean, books have been written about this. I'm thinking of The Big Leap, where whenever we up-level our life, there's this discomfort, simply not because it's worse, not because it's bad. In fact, it's likely better objectively, but it's different. And so that's going to be uncomfortable. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. So once we got into coaching then, how would you describe coaching with Yes And?
So when we started working together, so much of what I was trying to sort through was pretty intangible, right? There were these feelings of feeling disconnected, lots of anxiety and scarcity, a lack of contentment. But that's really hard to pinpoint because it's just feelings, it's not something I can say, I want this to be different. So even though I was definitely part of the process, sometimes I look back and I can't believe that we sorted it out and true change started manifesting from this, and that I can now see physical evidence in my life. Um, from this mentality shift, which is huge. So, one of those things is this true feeling of really coming home to myself and feeling rooted in who I am and the life I'm intentionally building, and being able to maintain healthy boundaries across all areas of my life, which was not happening before, really at all. And then, for the first time, feeling really good about taking up space and sharing myself with the world. And, even when we first started working together, I couldn't, like, it was uncomfortable for me to even pretend to take up physical space, let alone, just with you, let alone go do it, out in the world. And I would say I'm really now focused on the intentionality of my approach to life rather than the outcome of the situations. And I feel like contentedness has just completely bloomed because of that work.
Those are beautiful, beautiful outcomes. And what I was picturing is that one particular session when we had the metaphor of you on an airplane and strolling up to first class.
So uncomfortable.
But I love it. And I love that image of like, and not only like walking up to first class and taking up that space and that class and that level of being of who the brilliant individual that you are, but also like lounging in the first class chair and like stretching out your legs and being like part of that too is just knowing like even how long my legs are. And it's just a fact that like my legs need more space to stretch out in front of me. And that's just a fact. That's just factual. There's not even, there's so much like story and stuff that gets like muddies everything. And how beautiful to hear that at least some of that stretching and some of that taking up space is really being incorporated and being felt, because you so deserve it. You so deserve that first class ticket metaphorically across all areas of your life.
Yes. Well, and I would say even when I find myself back in coach in a metaphorical situation, the willingness to stay there is so much less. I think before I'd be like, okay, I'm going to like turn on my side and I'm going to like bring my knee up to my chest and I'm going to like do everything I can to get comfortable in this coach seat. And now where I might have done that, for the whole flight, I'm now like 10 minutes and I'm like, I cannot do this. And so that has been really good, that no matter the situation that has come up since then in life, this idea of that can look the same no matter what the situation is. And that's just feels so powerful.
Yes. And it is. I love these conversations because it's just like all the good feelings.
Make you want to do video all the time.
Well, it's just like celebrating how much we've gone through, which is just feels amazing.
Yes. So then speaking of that, we want to talk about the other
go for it.
Great. So another thing that I have learned from working together is that I am so capable of having hard conversations and feeling difficult emotions. And for a long time, I avoided feelings because negative feelings were linked, at least in my brain, to believing that I was doing something wrong or that it was something that I needed to fix. And you helped me draw out and really truly start believing that feelings are just part of the human experience, no matter how much I wish they weren't. And not only that, but something of value can come out of just sitting with those feelings. So I've been able to play, a lot with this idea of moving from trying to completely eliminate discomfort or conflict to working within the right kind of conflict or discomfort, because I'm never going to be able to remove it completely. And then from those moments of sitting and listening, not running away from discomfort at all costs, I've really been able to be much less reactive and much more intentional in everything, from designing a new role at work, which you helped me a ton with, to even just how I want to approach, family relationships and dating relationships and life in general.
And what is, if there's not an obvious answer that comes to mind, that's okay. But when you think of, so this first, it was this mindset shift of what quote negative emotions were, what the full breadth of emotions were, and this starting to see, oh, maybe this is just all part of it. Maybe this is here regardless. And then it's feeling almost empowered in those situations of, and maybe it doesn't necessarily feel empowering or, it can be uncomfortable at times, but having that mindset of, I choose to sit with this uncomfortable situation as opposed to some other uncomfortable situation. And you mentioned that that carried over to in your career life, in your relationship life, in your own intimate life. And then if you take it one step further, how do you think it has impacted being able to sit with all of life's experience in all of those areas of your life? Does an answer come to mind?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think it, it makes everything so much more beautiful and felt deeply, I guess, because it's like life just keeps on giving experience after experience. And if I'm not trying to take all my energy and doling out for myself, is this bad or is this good, or am I okay or I'm not okay, then I can't even believe like the creativity that comes to mind or the thoughts that come to mind or just the reactions I have to these experiences are not what I would have had even a year ago, because I couldn't just let them be as they were. I was so focused on, am I okay or am I not okay, because of how I'm experiencing this. And
Yeah.
I think what's also cool is I've learned so much about myself as far as just like what I like or don't like, and that's not like a terrible thing. Like it's just something, it's just another piece about me in the same way, that my hair is brown and my eyes are blue, and it's just part of who makes me up as who I am. So it's been really cool. It's been really freeing, I would say.
Yeah, that's beautiful to be able to experience the full depth of life without having to first go through this like checkpoint of like, is this good? Is this not? Is this safe? Is this not? Can I keep
Do I need to
going?
do something different? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then what you said of just being able to learn more about yourself because you're at this deeper layer. That's beautiful. Was there a third outcome that you had as well?
Yes. So there's just this genuine excitement, I would say, for the future, especially as I think about the next steps in my career with my own business. And I know we've kind of just barely scratched the surface on that so far, but I think the biggest thing for me is like the idea of that feeling big with possibility is no longer scary. It doesn't feel paralyzing. It feels really energizing. And I think the big reason for that is because I know it's now coming from a place of intentionality. And all the skills that I've learned with working with you are just going to accompany me on that next journey. So it's not like everything we talked about only applies to the specific situations, we talked about in sessions. That carries throughout.
I'm so excited for you.
Yes, I can't wait.
I'm
I
so
can't wait.
excited. So what comes to mind for me and thinking of like who might be listening to this is if someone understandably comes to coaching and they say, I want to start my own business. Like if there's something really specific, I want this to be accomplished through coaching. I try my best to hold that and to be excited about that and to remind everyone involved that it's a journey that's so unexpected and takes us through these pathways that are, I believe, needed to get to that ultimate goal. And the pathway might not look exactly like we think it will or happen as quickly or in the time that we plan it to. Speaking from direct experience with that one. And so what would you say, just what you highlighted there of like everything that we've worked on so far has helped you get to this point of building your business, your whatever this is happening next from a place of intentionality and this strong foundation. So what would you just say to someone who's potentially coming into coaching with this really clear idea, say they want to start their business now and that's their ultimate goal, about the process getting to that point?
That's also a very good question. But why I'm not surprised that you have good questions, because you always have good questions. Um, yeah. So I think, and what's interesting is when we started working together, I had brought up starting a business kind of right at the front, and then it quickly got kind of sidetracked, or not even sidetracked, kind of put on the back burner based on some other stuff that came up. And so what I think is important is to definitely hold that truth if that is what you're wanting for yourself and you see in your future. And I think there's probably not a right or wrong to how often you talk about that, but I think being really clear and honest with the reasonings behind it. And then anytime something uncomfortable comes up in a session that might not be about that, put that on hold and like start digging as fast as you can into that, because I think by tackling that in the moment, you're just going to be setting yourself up for even better success once you launch whatever that business is.
Mm. Yeah, and we need to replay that one a few times for our work together in the future, I feel like.
Yeah, we will. I know. I'm going to be like, who said that? I don't know who said that.
I'm just gonna
No
like
one I know.
hit play on the tape recorder and be like, remember?
Remember when you said it's okay to pause and dig deep on something that comes up, even if it's not what you think you want to talk about? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For all of us need that reminder. Well, thank you so much for sharing those three big outcomes and huge, I mean, like life-changing, deep
Yeah. It
outcomes
was hard
are,
to pick, but I was like, okay, what are kind of the big themes that almost everything falls under? But
yeah.
it's hard because I feel like there's a lot of tangible stuff, even of, I mean, I laugh a little bit about, how excited I was when I like was fixing things in my house, right? But I actually just read in a memoir about sobriety, even though I'm not sober, about the the joy and the powerfulness that comes with like taking care of your life. I don't know. I was like, yes, like vacuuming your steps, because I know we talked about that in a session, and I can't believe I took the time to tell you that I bought a hand vac, but it was important.
Yes, but it
It was
was.
important for what it represented. It was represented being capable and fixing and caring, and not just waiting for like either circumstances to change or someone to come change them for me. So
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I love that we talked about a hand back in our session. And it was so meaningful. And it is like, so one of my, I have multiple coaches at the moment. One of my other coaches recently was sharing kind of her insight of just reminding me like whatever we were working on in that moment, much like I work with you and my other clients, of like whatever we're working on, yes, we're working on that specific thing, but it also is translating to every area of life. And so like you said, it's that feeling of capability and of empowering yourself to take care of something that you desired and doing it and following through. And that,
yep.
yes, was represented by a hand vac, but it was representative of so much more in your life.
Yeah. Yep. And I think you're exact, especially when I think about work and career, right? And the idea is saying, okay, this isn't working for me. So how do I design my own role? And there's no way I could have just leapt right into that until, I resolved the hand back situation. So
Exactly. So what about coaching exceeded your expectations or maybe surprised you?
yeah, I think after every session, I was just so surprised about how much ground we covered. And that, while I would come to my session pretty much with an idea of what I wanted to work on, we always ended up so much further beyond that. And I think a lot of that has to do in part because the thing I really wanted to work on, I couldn't even articulate until we got into our conversation. So you're just so good at drawing out what's really at the root of it instead of just surface level. So that helped a ton. And then the deeper we got, the faster we can, dive in and keep pushing. And but I do think the most surprising thing is really how quickly your approach got in my head permanently. And I mean that in the best way. And so when I'm faced with something now, I think, what would Marin ask? And the ability to anticipate where you'd encourage me to go deep and think almost means that you're with me even when we aren't in the middle of a session. And I think when I first started, I was like, well, this is, a once every other week thing. It'll be fine. But the fact that it keeps going with me and I'm always modifying accordingly is great, but I did not expect it.
Yeah, to have that extra voice. And I'm curious about this extra voice because many clients have brought it up and saying like, I think they're like, Maureen, you're in my head now. Like, like I have your questions and I'm
Yes.
flattered and also humbled to know that I'm in so many people's minds. And I'm interested to like, and I'm not sure we're just going with the conversation at this point, but
Got it.
um, is that because so much of coaching, at least what I feel so powerful about is I see I see Elise's capability. I see where you shine and how strong you are and how beautiful your vision is. And that's what I feel like we draw out every session is like your own wisdom and your own answers. And so when it comes to like me being in your head, is it me in your head or is it just like something about, because I feel like it comes back to your wisdom, right? So how does that look if you have an answer? And if not, that's okay.
Yeah, the best way I can describe it is when I say something and then you ask a question, there's almost this immediate like internal recognition of, yes, that is exactly the next question that I knew I needed to ask myself, and just either wouldn't go there or couldn't go there, or was going to try and avoid going there, maybe, depending on the topic. And so I do think what it really feels like when you are just so aligned with your coach is exactly that. It's this, you're already touching on it because I'm saying what I need to say, um, and you're just pushing like revealing just a little bit deeper layer that we already know is there, but it's so nice to have somebody be a witness to that so that we're not having to dive into it alone.
That's a great answer. That's an A+ gold star answer.
Thank you. That's all I wanted. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. After a year, I finally got one.
Okay, so the last bit here is just, and really, please talk from a place of what you really believe. This has to come from you. Would you recommend coaching with Yes and with me? And if so, what type of person might be the perfect fit for coaching?
No, just kidding. What, has anybody said no yet? That would be horrible.
It would be very interesing.
I couldn't even keep a straight face.
Great.
No, I couldn't even keep a straight face for 30 seconds. Okay, I will answer it for real this time. So I would completely recommend coaching with Yes and I think it'd be a great fit, for a person who is not afraid of hard work. And I mean that just in the sense of continuing to show up even when things are messy or unclear or feeling just confusing or less clear than when you started. A willingness to be vulnerable, that willingness to be honest, even if, you wish it was a different answer you could give to a question, but you have to speak, what is it, your heart of the matter. And I think someone who's really just willing to sit through the discomfort of growth for the great payback at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that kind of like reality check-in of this is for the, like, I feel like I often speak to, this is for the dreamers. This is for the individuals who know they want something else, who are just, some level of them is unsatisfied with where they're at currently. And I like that level that you just added of like, and also you're going to need to be able to show up for some stuff and sit through the discomfort. And of course I'm there for you between sessions. And that's really one of my favorite parts, is to be in it in real time. And that requires you to also be in it in real time and be honest, not only during those sessions, but when it comes to doing everything that happens in the real world on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Only have 2 questions left here. So
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, the first of 2 final ones is if I were to, pull someone over and say, hey, like, this is someone who's thinking about coaching, Elyse, would you have, and then left you guys to your own private conversation, Elyse, would you just share some insight? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I think the best advice I can give is just to jump in fully and to not waste time with what you think you should be saying or feeling, and instead just share, where you're really at and what you think and feel. And if any part of you is considering coaching, I think you just owe it to yourself to explore that for as long as that continues to feel like the right choice. And I think the biggest thing is to know that there is discomfort as part of the process, but there's also energy and grace and a lot of humor in the process as well.
Yes, especially with our sessions. I love it. And to just jump in and go for it. And you said specifically, like, not to waste time saying, like, dodging the discomfort or dodging the truth of what's there from the very first conversation that I might have with a potential client. And then, as you said, all the way through coaching, I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to ever like shame or bring any like mean discomfort to the conversation. I'll hold you in a space of like where the discomfort is happening naturally. But I think, the honesty component, that's where, I mean, you can dodge it if you want, the truth of what's going on, and we'll get there eventually. So may as well just speak to it right away.
Get there. Yeah. Don't slow the process down. And you're also pretty good about asking, like, is that the real reason? So it's hard to kind of play make believe for a really long time when you're a coach, when you're the person's coach, because
Yes.
you can usually suss that out pretty quick.
Yes. So last question of the day. You've done so good. It's been so enjoyable to reflect on how far we've come
And
together.
together, I know.
So just lastly, is there anything else you want to say about your experience? Anything else that maybe any of the questions just didn't quite get to that you want to share?
Yeah, and that's a hard one because I really can't say enough about working with you as a coach, but I'm gonna try. So it has really truly been the single most influential decision I have made for my health and self-care. And just when I thought I'd gone as far as I could with something, I learned more. And your ability to stay with me during the vulnerable moments of self-discovery was, I mean, just truly unparalleled. And I felt safe. We've laughed a lot, but you've also pushed me. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And one of the biggest things is I've honed in on my ability to distinguish that feeling of discomfort that comes from growth versus the one that comes from misalignment. And that is just going to continue to serve me so well. And I feel content and powerful in my own life. But I think the craziest part about that is that it isn't coming from this place of like huge circumstantial changes or shifts. It's really just been regular work session after session with you. And I couldn't be more grateful.
You're so
Oh
amazing. And it's
gosh.
been such an honor to be, and I know we're like only really just getting started in many ways, yet how beautiful the transformation has been. And that last piece that you shared about like it wasn't these monumental circumstantial changes is so interesting too, because I've also heard that from many clients is that it's not like, I mean, in a way, it's like it's from an objective eye, it's like there's huge changes. So like one of my clients was like, yeah, I mean, nothing huge changed. And then I was like, wait a second, you like tripled your business in the last year. Like there
That's
have
so
definitely been some big changes here. So in a way there are definitely, and I can say the same about you too, of like how much has changed in the last year, but also you're right in that it's the little things, and it's just like coming to the session with vulnerability, with openness, with truth about maybe we're going to talk about a vacuum cleaner today, and that's what we're going to talk about, and to trust the process of that, and that it's all like right and is going to work out and it's going to be meaningful for the bigger picture that we're working toward.
Yep. And I think that was the big thing for me because for so long, with therapy, it was like, okay, I figured out why I'm this way, like I've said, but then I was like, there was a lot of magical thinking about how I was going to fix it. It's like, well, I wouldn't feel this way if this or if this or if, and it was all, again, those big changes of like, well, if I lived in this city or if I had this job or if I lived in this house. And so to be able to be in the same company, be in the same house, be in the same city, pretty much be the same person that I was when we started, and yet to feel so monumentally different and to be showing up so different is just mind blowing to me in the best way. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes. I love that. And I resonate with it so much. So too, I was just saying, so I do my own gratitude practice every morning. And I was looking at the list the other day and I was like, I actually have all of these things. They look a little different than they do on my list in terms of like on the list, maybe they're just the same thing, but at a grander scale or in a slightly different way. But it's like, I already really have all of this. Like this already
Yeah.
exists. And I feel like that's what you're recognizing in hindsight and going forward too, of like, I am perfect and whole and everything is great and I have all I need right now, and still dreaming of next things and desires that you have for your life, while knowing that it doesn't, you don't need a magical house or like
No.
a wishing well to make it happen. It's just those little shifts one by one, and implementing that
Exactly.
awareness. Thank you so much for taking time
Oh, of
today.
course. It was so good to see your face. And like we've said, I know our journey's not done. So in the meantime, I'm excited for these monthly emails that I'm getting from you, which is great now. I haven't even dived into it. I'm like, no, I have to reserve it for a special evening tomorrow.
I love
um,
it.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, but then looking forward to working together closely again because we're not done. We're just on a journey.
Yes. Yes, beautifully said. Thank you so much. Thank you for your answers, your
Of
honest
course.
answers, your vulnerability. I know, I really believe that something that you said today is going to help someone else to take that jump
Oh, I hope so.
of saying yes to something that can feel scary and can feel unfamiliar. And I've just seen, and I'm like, to you as well, absolutely, of like what is possible with this work and how transformative it is and how life-changing it is. And I just like, I feel in reflecting on how much we've done, but also like when you speak to how excited you are about what's next, I really like all throughout my body, I feel butterflies and just like giddy because
Good,
I'm
me
like,
too.
of course there's something great. Like there is something great right now and there's something really great coming. And I'm so honored to be part of the journey with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be on the journey with you as well.